Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Beth Gracie, and I'm super excited to be able to share with you some simple skills for social eating. So before we get started, I want to give you a little bit of an intro about who I am, where I come from, and why this workshop is important to me as a person and important for me to be able to share with you. So this is me. Hi. I am a mom. I've got two littles. I've got a son and a daughter. They are 7 and 9. I have a dog, and I've got a big history of things that are all around food, good and bad. And that's really what has shaped, me as a person, but really my career. And it's one of the things, the social and emotional eating is really one of the things that I work the most on with my clients, and it's one of the things that I have to still work the most on in my own life. Um, i i am an emotional eater. That is the thing. And when I was younger and I really didn't have any idea what I was doing or why I was doing it, I would turn to food. It was how I would hide. It was how I would cope. It was how I would have comfort. It was how I would get out of doing things I didn't want to do. And that led me to some not great choices and some not great health issues. Because I've been on both sides of that spectrum with food, from super restrictive all the way up to obesity. And through that, I've done a million different diet plans, and that whole up down yo-yo roller coaster, which is pretty hard. I must say, it's pretty hard. And it's tricky. It's a tricky place to be. It's a tricky way to live. Um, and that's really where the basis of what I do comes from, is that I do have social anxiety. I have social anxiety with people. I have social anxiety with food. um, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But really what happened for me is that when I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and then that has kind of cascaded to some other things that we don't need to get into. But I have an autoimmune disease, and through that, I'm a pharmacist. So I take all the medicines, I do all the things, and I still didn't feel good. And it wasn't really until I took control of my own health in a different way and stopped fearing food and started using it as my own control and my own power. And that's really where things shifted for me, because food really did impact my health. It really did impact my pain level, my anxiety, my sleep, all of the things. And it really came from me making some dietary changes. And that's where I learned that all of these like healthy foods, right, really weren't healthy for me because my body wasn't tolerating them. So the food allergy piece wasn't something I learned until, I was well into my 20s. And then after I had my daughter, things shifted again. As my body was shifting, I would have to learn different things about what foods I tolerated when, and what things were okay, and what things like really weren't worth it anymore. And so through that struggle, through those learnings, what I discovered about myself was that pharmacy didn't really align with my values anymore. And I have this big shift from, this treatment of things, this like blind here, do this thing, to why? Why do you want to do that thing? Do you want to do that thing? And is that really a band-aid, or is that just covering up something that's much deeper? And if we don't fix that thing that's deeper, if we don't fix that actual need, that root cause, then what are we doing? We're spinning our wheels and wasting our time and wasting our energy. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of energy to waste on things that aren't helpful anymore. And that's really where everything shifted for me, is that now that's what I get to do, is I get to help other people figure out those true needs and address them for themselves, and really feel that difference away from fear, and take that control back to know what is good for their bodies and be able to execute that in an empowered way, not just because somebody told them to, whether that is, counting colors or points or calories or macros, or, taking a pill for cholesterol. You do it because it makes sense for you and makes you feel good, not just because this paper said so or this program said so. And that empowerment is a huge piece of being able to go to any social situation, holiday situation, restaurant, whatever, and walk in there with confidence to know I know what my body needs, and I'm going to do the things that I need to do to feel good inside and out in this situation. And if I can help you to make those hard things just that much less hard, then I've done a good job. And that's what I want to share with you today. So let's get started. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why we eat. We are going to talk about why social situations are that much harder, why they impact our behaviors around food. And then most importantly, what do we actually do about it? What do we do for holidays, for eating out, for hosting and attending gatherings, try that. I suppose it could be a gallery as well. We're going to talk about treats and alcohol. And most importantly, we're going to talk about managing that all or nothing. That idea that if you weren't completely perfect, somehow you have failed. So spoiler alert, you have not. And that's what we're going to talk about this whole time, is how you get to eat the things that you love in a responsible way so that you feel good after. So let's talk about why we eat. Why do we need to eat? Fuel. There is one thing. There is one actual reason that we need to eat. We need to fuel our bodies to be able to do the things, right? Why do we actually eat? This is like the tiniest snippet of those reasons, but think about it. We eat because we're hungry, like actual belly hunger, right? But there's a whole lot of different kinds of hunger, right? There is belly hunger. And if you guys have done any of the food empowerment challenges that I run, that you know about belly hunger and heart hunger and head hunger, they're different, right? If it is a physical hunger, it starts in your belly. If it's something else, it's that like immediate kind of craving, right? If you are angry or sad or happy or grieving or at a celebration or at a birthday party or any of these things, or it's 7:30 and you put the kids to bed, and so your habit loop is to come downstairs, grab some chips, sit on the couch and watch TV, right? There are a million different reasons why we actually eat. There's that emotional and there's environmental hunger, right? We eat because it's there. If it's right in front of us, it's really easy to just keep going, right? Other big reasons why we eat are fear, right? Fear, food can be a very comforting thing for us for a ton of different reasons. But when we are talking about social situations in particular, there is a fear of judgment, whether or not it's a fear of judgment about why are you eating that, or why aren't you eating that, or are you eating enough, or, all of those things. I always think of like my big fat Greek wedding. I'm not hungry. I make food, right? I make dinner. Like what I just said, right? There's also that fear of missing out, is that, when we're in those situations, there's this like crazy buffet of amazing things. We want to try those things because they taste good. Right? We want to eat those things. We watch other people eat those things and we want it too. We get that food envy, right? What if I didn't have that? What if I'm missing out on something awesome, right? So all of these different things really do play into what we eat, why we eat it, how much of it we eat, and then most importantly, how we feel after, physically and emotionally. How do we feel after? And I want you to think about that as we're going along, is how am I going to feel after? That's a big driver for the decisions that we make. How am I going to feel after? Does this get me to my goal? Okay. Keep those two questions in the back of your head as we're going along. So let's talk even more about why social eating is more difficult. We're distracted. That's the whole point, right? Like we're with family, we're with friends, we're with work people, we're with whoever, and it's distracting. We're visiting and we're not paying attention to our physical cues. When we're busy, we don't do that. And as moms, we shut that down a long time ago. Right? We forgot that we had to pee 4 hours ago. So it's really hard to recognize that difference between, am I hungry or am I not hungry anymore? Am I hungry, or is that cupcake just staring at me and like taunting me until I eat it, right? And then there's the things that I was just talking about, that fear of judgment. Why is she not eating dairy? Is she on keto? Is she on a diet? Is blah, 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 right? All of these opinions that are floating around in other people's heads. Here's the thing. We don't know what's happening in someone else's head. So a lot of times we can waste that energy worrying about what someone else might be thinking. They're probably thinking the same things we are. But the other piece of that is there sometimes are people who are very vocal about their opinions about what you should do with your body. And we know who those people are and where they pop up. So we recognize that going into these situations, there could be, right? Like the Charlie Brown in the back of your head that you want to like elbow and just say, stuff it, right? But instead of doing that, instead of standing up for ourselves, a lot of times it's easier just to eat the thing so we don't have to deal with it. Those environmental pressures, those social pressures, those family dynamics, all of those things, they make it really tricky. They make it really tricky to have that confidence, to stand up for yourself and say, no, thank you. or nope, I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you for caring, right? Or just switching that conversation or not going because it doesn't serve you, right? All of these things are things that you have control over. It's your body, right? Other things that make social eating really difficult: portion size. Our culture is not very good at portion size. Everything is big and bigger and biggest, right? Hyperpalatable food. Things are stocked full of sugar and fat. It makes it taste good. Nobody wants to go out to a restaurant and have food that doesn't taste good. We're really good at making food that tastes good in like all the grandeur, right? And then there's the emotional pieces. We eat for comfort. The thing, we eat for habit, we eat for comfort, we eat things that are familiar because it brings us emotional connection. That's the nostalgia piece, right? A lot of times our comfort foods don't have squat to do with the food. They have to do with our memories surrounding the food, right? So like making Christmas cookies with your parents. You know, for me, it was trying to learn how to make snickerdoodles with my grandmother, who I still to this day, I cannot make those. I can't make the cookies. She did it and she did it by feel and by, oh, just add a little more. I still don't know what that means, but it was hours of time that I got to spend with her. It was hours of connection. She was my person. And so when I don't feel good, I want snickerdoodles. No, I really want my grandma, but you can see where those things can kind of stack up. So when we are in a situation where we feel comfortable and we have that nostalgia, we want to feel that joy. And often we get that connection through food. And so those emotional connections really do become drivers for our behaviors. They become drivers for our habits, especially in those familiar environments. And it's fascinating if you think about, you know, when you walk in for like Thanksgiving and you go into like your mom's house, there's a loop that you do. There's a place that you automatically go to first. There's a chair that's your favorite, right? It's the same things with food. So what do we do about that? First thing is we have to recognize what those things are. We have to plan and we prepare, right? Think about it as a test, right? If you go into school and there's a pop quiz, you're like, right? Like immediately, like anxiety and your chest and your belly's like all sorts of flipping out, right? That's because we don't know what to expect and we don't know what to do. But if you can plan and prepare, you can go in with confidence. Here's the kicker. We have to be able to plan and prepare for lots and lots of different things. So if you can kind of go through that and think about who's going to be there, what's going to be there, what might throw me off guard, what has thrown me off in the past, and try to develop that plan. Just have that kind of running dialogue. It's a really good journal topic too, of, you know, what am I going to walk into and how can I feel confident today? But that preparation gives your confidence. That confidence gives you the empowerment piece. It's the thing that lets you walk in there and know, I'm going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. I choose to do this. I choose to not do that. And that is a whole different ballgame versus walking in and wondering what is about to happen and am I going to be able to stay on track, right? When you've got the goals that you have and you've been working really, really hard, when you walk into an unfamiliar situation, it becomes really scary. What happens? What happens? Did I just undo all the things that I've been working on, right? This is what we're talking about. How do we avoid that anxiety and allow you to be present in that situation and not waste your energy on those thoughts? Spend your energy doing the things you love with the people that you love. So what do we need to know? Here's what we need to know. What are your goals? What is it that you're working on? You know, and what are your goals for that event, right? Do you have a weight loss goal? Is your goal to survive that event when you've got food allergies or food intolerances and you don't want to eat something that's going to make you feel gross, right? Is it to just get through that thing with people who are not people that you would necessarily choose to spend your free time with, but you are obligated to do so at this time, right? What are those things that you need to accomplish to leave that event and be proud of yourself for that day, right? There's always something to be proud for, always. And when we know that going in, we've got specific action steps of things that we can do during that event, during that time, so that you can leave there and be like, yep, I did that. Big thing. Where is it? Where is your event? Is it at someone's home? Is it at a restaurant? Is it at a banquet facility? Is it at work? Where is it? Different tactics for different places. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about eating out. whether it is a holiday, whether it's dinner with friends, wherever, right? The skills are the same for eating out. Big thing, investigate that menu before you go. Thank you to the pandemic, we've got online menus everywhere, everywhere. It's very rare that you will not have the ability to check out a menu at any restaurant before you go now. That's huge. What that gives you the ability to do is to decide what you're having before you go. It allows you to peek at that menu, peek at the ingredients, ask questions if there's something that you might need to substitute, and you can decide what sort of side you want to sub. You can decide whether or not you need to leave cheese off if you want to add an extra protein. You can decide what makes sense for your goals ahead of time so that when you go there, you can rattle it off, right? That creates personal accountability. Bonus points if you say that to someone else, because now you have accountability for that person, from that person as well. It helps you avoid that food envy, because when you're sitting there and you're hungry, you're looking around like, ooh, that looks good, and ooh, that looks good, and you start to change your mind, right? So anytime that you can make that choice and stick to it before you go, you know that you can design that meal around your body's needs. Big thing, not every time that menu is going to be great. Okay, if this is where you're going, it's where you're going. So we make the best of that situation, and that's it, right? So if we know that this place is not going to have super healthy food, or maybe it's not going to have the best options for what you want and fitting within your goals, then maybe that means we pay more attention to portion. Maybe it means that you eat before you go, right? Maybe it means you eat before you go, you have an appetizer, call it a day, right? But big thing is when you've got an event like that, and if you're sure or unsure, rule of thumb, move your body and make sure that you eat for your goals before and after. It's what, an hour of your day? How much damage are you going to do in an hour of your day? Eat before and after. Make sure that you're drinking your water and move your booty. That's it, right? It sounds very simplistic. I know. I'm not making light of it. But truly, when you can plan for that, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to make sure that those actual foods and portion and all of that makes sense for you. But it's a blip in your day. And when you can plan and know that that blip's about to happen, you've got the whole rest of your day to make sure that all of those things do in fact meet your goals, your body, and you can feel good and proud at the end of that day, right? So what happens if you don't know? This happens a lot. If you are going to like a holiday party and it's at a restaurant, like a lot of times there's set menus, or you really don't know, or sometimes you just don't know, right? This is like takeout all of a sudden, showing up at, in the work break room, right? So if you don't know what those ingredients are, and if you have an issue with allergies, if you have an issue with intolerances, or you really just want to make sure that whatever you're putting in your body aligns with what your goals are, eat before you go. Another thing that you can do, and it's kind of like it's cringy, right? But you can bring your own food. You can bring your food to a restaurant. They don't like it. It doesn't matter. It's your body. It doesn't matter. It is your body. You might get a little side eye, but is that worth you feeling good after that event? Anytime you're at an event, you're not there for the food. You're there for the people. You're there for the experience. The food is kind of like that bonus extra. But if you're there with the purpose of being with those people to celebrate, if you're there with the purpose of being with those people to have that community, have that camaraderie, it doesn't matter what food is on your plate or what's not. Same thing. Eat before and after. Make sure those things are to your goals. And you show up. And if you decide to eat what's there, that's up to you. But you're not under any obligation to do that. That's what I want to make sure that you understand, is that you are never under any obligation to eat something that doesn't make sense for you. That's the social pressure piece. But you have every right and every capability to say, no, thank you. So let's talk about hosting. Hosting is my favorite. This is like my jam. I enjoy hosting. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy making food that tastes good in ways that I can eat. So for me, it's kind of like a puzzle to create, especially traditional foods with ingredients that my body will tolerate. So when you are hosting, you have all the power. It is your house. It is your event. You create the menu. So create it around you. You get to do that. That's the value of hosting. If you are hosting something, people will show up. They're not going to show up because you did or did not make mashed potatoes. They're going to show up because they love you and this is what's happening. They will come and they'll eat the food that's there. I promise you, they will come and they might be like, huh, I wasn't here this time. Okay, the end, right? So you get that opportunity to set your environment up for your success. Do it. It is not a selfish thing. It is not a selfish thing to take care of you. You deserve to feel good. And when you hold all the power of that menu creation, bonus points, right? Like that's really exciting. You get that opportunity. Exercise it. One way that you can do that, people always want to bring stuff. Cool. Awesome. You create those staple menu items and then you tell somebody else what they need to bring. Give them specifics. Otherwise, you end up with like 12 things of the same thing or stuff that doesn't fit your needs, right? So if you really don't want to make this thing, but you would like to have it, tell the neighbor, please bring this. Tell your mom, please bring this, right? But when you can instruct specifics, way better. Way better. If you are attending, this is the place to ask all the questions. It's a lot like going to the restaurant, right? Most of the time, we know the people well enough, especially if it's a holiday situation, right? That we can have that comfort to say, hey, what are you planning on serving, right? And if you have a dairy allergy, if you have a gluten allergy, if there's something that's going on and you really aren't sure, ask the questions. Just ask, what are you planning on making? Oh, that sounds really good. What is in that, right? And it's not about them tailoring to your needs. It's about you going to the event and making sure that you are taking care of you. That's a big distinction. Sometimes we don't want to talk about it or we're afraid to have that conversation because we don't want to burden anybody else. It's only me, right? I've had that feeling before where I go somewhere and I don't want to make waves because it's just me. You know what? It is not just me. It is not, because it is my body and the consequences that I might have to endure after that. So there's no just about it. It is my need. It's your need and it's your safety, right? And it's your confidence and your pride. And those are big deals. So if you don't get the answers that you need, eat before you go. If you are unsure that something might be safe for you, eat before you go and bring your own food, right? Don't take that whole like, oh no, you don't need to bring anything. No, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You need to bring something that is safe for you. Just bring enough to share. And then it's like, oh, I didn't want to come empty handed. Here you go. Now you know you're not going to have to sit there and just stare at an empty plate while other people are enjoying things, right? You get to have something that is safe for you, that you are going to feel confident eating and feel good before, during, after. Okay? People don't understand it. People who don't have food allergies, people who haven't experienced that difference between feeling okay and not feeling okay, they don't get it, right? Sometimes people really don't understand the difference between like, oh, I'm doing this because it's like the cool fad thing to do, or because my body really gets mad. But here's the difference. A lot of people do understand when they eat something they don't feel good. Things like Thanksgiving, it's expected, right? It's expected, which blows my mind why it would be a thing to intentionally feel bad. I am intentionally trying to not feel bad. So there becomes this disconnect. And that's also some of that pressure, right? Is that, oh, it's Thanksgiving, you should blah, 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 right? Oh, just eat it, just take the cheese off. Oh, who cares? It's just a little bit. Well, you know your body well enough to know what is okay for you. You know your body well enough to know whether or not it's worth the explanation, right? Some people, it's just a no thank you, because you're just going to go in that loop and we don't need to go there, right? It's not that I'm not having it because I'm on a diet. I don't feel good when I eat that. It's no thank you, I'm not hungry for that right now. It doesn't have to be a big thing, right? The bigger thing is that it is your body and it is your choice what you put in there. That is your driver. How am I going to feel after? Does this get me to my goal? People will understand or not, but it is your body and the consequences that happen for you. They don't understand that either. And I'm sure that people don't wish harm on any of us, right? They don't understand it. Some of them never will. And honestly, I'm thankful that they don't understand what it's like to not feel good enough, to not want to eat a particular food. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift around that. They're not necessarily being judgy. A lot of times they just don't know. And we're never going to be able to fix that until they're willing to listen. And that's not our responsibility. It is your responsibility to take care of your body. Let's talk more about emotions. We've talked about lots and lots of different reasons other than hunger that we eat. Triggers. Let's talk about some triggers. We know our food triggers that are like, oh my gosh, I just want to eat that thing and I have no stop button. That's me and stuffing. Right there. That's me and stuffing. Also me with pumpkin pie. I know that's not a thing that I can sit right next to. It's just not. I'll just keep going. There are also particular people that can be triggers. We know who those people are. Who are they? Where are they going to be? Are there particular foods? What are the things that have been triggers for you in the past? Think about those things and think about how to navigate around them. Does that mean you have to ask more questions? Does that mean you need to have like a code word of we have to go? Does that mean let's go take a walk right before dinner, right? Lots of different ways that you can get around that, still participating, but to take care of you. Maybe that's a grounding exercise where you've got your hand on your belly and one hand on your leg, and you're just taking 5 deep breaths. There are lots of different ways that you can get through and recognize those triggers in a more healthy way. Think about those things. Who are those people? Those food pushers, those people who are like, oh, just have it. And they pile it on your plate anyway. And every time you turn around, there's, more wine in your drink, or, any other of those things that I know are going through your head right now. Practice this sentence. No, thank you. I'm not hungry for that right now. The right now piece is the most important. That's the thing that lets them know I'm not just declining, right? Like if it's not right now, it might be later. It doesn't have to be later, but it's the verbiage of I'm not hungry. So if you are not hungry, they're a jerk for trying to push that on you when you just told them I'm not hungry. And when you say that right now, it gives that opportunity to, take it home for later. It gives that opportunity to, oh, wait, nope, I'm still full from dinner. I'll revisit later. But you know darn well whether you plan to do that or not. They don't. Practice that sentence. Or you can just leave it as no thank you. Up to you. Biggest, boldest thing. You are under zero obligation to put anything in your body that does not make you feel good. Read that again. Write that down. Zero obligation to put anything in your body that does not make you feel good. So let's talk about things that you can do to stay on track with the goals that you have. So we've got the different things that could be those triggers. Now let's deal with them. So again, if you've done my food empowerment challenges, you know all about HALT. HALT is you eat when you're hungry. You don't eat when you're not. We've got all of those other reasons why we eat. So HALT stands for asking yourself before you eat something, am I hungry? Or is it something else? Am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I lonely? Or am I tired or bored? Okay? All these different reasons. So before you dive headfirst into whatever that thing is, just because it looks good, halt, physically stop and ask yourself, am I hungry? Or is it something else? If it is something else, go do something else, right? But pay attention to those physical cues and pay attention to portion. Portion is one of the biggest things with social eating, right? Because a lot of times we don't have super options. It's not like everything is chicken and broccoli, right? We've got all these amazing things surrounding us and we do want to eat them, and we should because they're delicious. But if you wouldn't stuff yourself on a random Tuesday, why in the world would you do that any other day? It doesn't make sense, right? We don't do that just because we're at a party or it's a holiday or because society told us that we need to bring our Thanksgiving pants, right? It's not a thing. If it doesn't make you feel good right now, there's no reason why you should put yourself in a situation that doesn't make you feel good any other time, right? And it really is less about what's on your plate. Obviously, there's the food allergy thing, right? That matters. Please don't eat things you're allergic to. But it does become a lot more about that portion size, right? We are going to have exception foods because we love them, we eat them, they taste good, and we deserve to eat food that tastes good, right? So do it. Eat the food and enjoy the food. Give yourself permission to enjoy the things that you love, but in a responsible portion. Don't waste your energy being distracted, staring at that thing all day long that you just want to eat. Just freaking eat it. It's going to make you feel good. Do it. Don't eat a portion that's the size of your head, right? But take that portion that you will feel comfortable eating, you will be proud of at the end of the day, and get that word should or shouldn't out of your head. It's gone. If you want it, have it. Put it on your plate, eat it, decide if it's worth it for you. But do it in a way that doesn't make you feel yucky. If we overstuff ourselves, we don't get to have stuff later. But if you have those smaller portions, you can have it now and you're going to be hungry. So now you can have more of it, right? Think about that shift. It doesn't all have to be at the same time. It really doesn't. Culturally, yeah, that's the push, but it doesn't really make sense. And if it doesn't make sense for you, why? Let's talk treats. Let's talk treats. Let's talk alcohol. Treats are treats. Treats are treats no matter what ingredients are in them. If it is a treat food, we have to treat it as a treat. So what that means is they are exceptions. They are things that we have every once in a while and things that we have in a smaller portion. If you love it, eat it. But if you don't love it, is it worth having those exception foods? That's something I want you to think about. Is if you love it, you love stuffing, you love green bean casserole, super, awesome, eat it. If you don't love it, is it worth it? Or would you rather save that space in your belly, save that space in your head for the things that you do love? That's a no thank you. I'll have some later, right? Same thing. But especially with treats, just because they're made with things like coconut sugar or coconut oil instead of butter or almond flour, it doesn't mean they're healthy. It just means they're made with different ingredients. Treats are treats. So if you are planning on substituting ingredients, substitute those ingredients because they make you feel good. It doesn't give that green light to overdo portions, especially on treats. So give yourself permission to enjoy those favorites. Just do it in a responsible way. All right, alcohol. Alcohol. Alcohol is a double-edged sword. A lot of times alcohol is involved in social events. Clearly it's a thing, right? It has zero nutritional value. None. It's there. A lot of us choose to indulge in that. So if you choose to indulge, here's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about how you are going to feel after so that you can decide how much and if you want it in the first place. So let's talk about consequences of alcohol. Breakdown of the calories with alcohol. There's no proper macro for alcohol, but it breaks down about 50% of those calories go to carbohydrate and about 50% of those calories go to fat. So a couple glasses of wine and all of a sudden, like you've got 20 extra grams of fat in your day and like 60 extra grams of carbs. It adds up really, really fast. The other thing that can happen is that it can mess with your sleep, especially in the evening. It creates, so alcohol has bioamines, which act in your body like histamine. So, you know, those times when you've had, you know, a glass of wine at night and you wake up and you're like hot flashing like crazy. And sometimes we can wake up with a like big anxiety. That's alcohol. That's what it does. It messes things up. It also slows our digestion. So if we're having foods we're not used to having, and we've had wine or whatever else, and now those things are just kind of sitting there, it makes our inflammation go up. It messes with our bellies. We don't feel super. And the other thing is that alcohol decreases our inhibitions. It chills us out, right? That's the whole point, right? Well, it decreases those inhibitions so that all of those things, those temptation foods, sound like a really, really good idea. So a lot of times it's not necessarily that alcohol that causes the increase in calories. It's our decreased inhibition that makes us snack more. So just consider those things. Make sure you're drinking your water. Make your choice. Own your choice. Be responsible. So now let's talk about what happens when we eat the food and it's not great for us. Or we eat the food and we start to have that guilt about, oh my gosh, why did I do that, right? So super common. Super common. This is the whole all or nothing. This is the, if it didn't fit on this list, I have failed. Get it out of your head. Just stop. Stop. There is not a single person that expects perfection except for you. It's not. It's not. I'm not saying that to make excuses. That's not what we're talking about. But what I am talking about, when you are on a path with your nutrition, with your movement, for weight loss, for muscle gain, for improved sleep, for better energy, for whatever, it's not about all or nothing, but it is about restraint versus restriction. It's not about cutting things out completely. This is different than allergies, right? Like this is different conversation. Restraint, yes, it takes restraint. It takes restraint to say what is good for your body. It takes restraint to have one piece of pizza instead of 3. It takes restraint to say no. Different than restriction. Eat the things. This is where the portion comes in, right? Eat the things. One day is not going to mess it up. I promise you. If you have one day and then another day and then another day and then another day for 7 months straight, yeah, that'll mess you up. One day won't matter. And that's the value of consistency, right? You have this thing, eat it. Cool, super, you're at an event. The second you get home, back to normal routine, right? The second you get home, that next morning, you start with your water, you move your body, you go back into those things that you have been consistently doing. And now what we have is directionality, right? Every choice you make, you are either casting a vote closer to or further away from your goals, right? Majority wins. That's it, majority. So if you've got 90% of the things that are going closer to, you're going to get there. If you have 52% of the things going closer to, you're still going to get there, right? You take your foot off the gas a little bit, and that's all this is. But it doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean backwards. It means you are standing up for yourself. It means you are enjoying yourself. And it also means you're setting the example for those around you that you don't have to be perfect all the time, and you can still get what you want, and you can still feel good. So get up, you show up for yourself, you drink your water, you eat a vegetable, and then you do it again. You make that next right choice. That's it. We're going to have moments of, I probably shouldn't have done that. Okay, none of that matters. What matters is what you choose to do next. Make that next right choice, and then do the one after that. Cool, right? It's tricky, but you can do it. I know you can. So let's recap. Your body, your decision, your choices. You never, ever, 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 ever have to do anything that does not make you feel good inside or out. Give yourself permission to enjoy what you love. Do it in that responsible way. Do it in a portion that makes sense. Portion matters. Pay attention. Stay mindful of, is it my belly that is hungry, or is it something else? Am I hungry, or am I not hungry anymore? When you get to that point of feeling full, you are too far. But think about that. Am I hungry, or is that hunger gone? If that hunger is gone, done. Take a break. Set that environment up for success. If you are hosting, if you are attending, make sure that you've got the things that you need. If that means that you step away from that buffet table so that you're not tempted, if you have to leave a conversation, physically get up and go get something else, we're a lot less likely to do that. So that's a way that you can set your environment up, especially if you're hosting. Food lives here, gathering is here, right? Same thing with work parties. Get your stuff and then walk away, right? If we are at least an arm's length away, we're a lot less likely to disrupt that gathering, because remember, that's the point, right? The point of those gatherings is togetherness, it's community, it's to share that love and to celebrate. It doesn't need to be on your plate to be able to do that. You can choose to have that on your plate to enhance that experience, but do it in a way that's responsible for you. Above all, enjoy yourself. That's what it's truly about. So that, my dears, is what I have for you today. So I want to thank you for hanging out with me. I want to thank you for all of your attention, and invite you to a live Q&A session on Tuesday, the 23rd at 7 p.m. It'll be inside that Functional Food and Fitness Facebook group. If you have not registered, there is a button right in your email. Click that button, join the group, and if you can, you're also going to get an email in a little bit asking for a quick review. And if you have any of those questions, I want to make sure that I am all prepared and ready to go so I can address as many of those as possible on Tuesday. So just reply to that email, and I'll see everybody on Tuesday. And if any of this has sparked that curiosity for you, and you want to dive in further, or you want to dive into just what your specific situation is and how we can make sure that you're getting through these next couple of months in the safest and happiest way, reach out. You can message me on Facebook. You can reply to any of those emails, and we can chat those things out. And just extra bonus because it's fun, watch for Black Friday deals. I'm doing something new that I've never done before. I'm really excited about it. So if you message me with that code workshop, you'll get a special added bonus because you are here and you deserve all of the fun things. So that, my dears, is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see everybody on Tuesday. Bye, friends.